certain goals for yourself, but you don't want to limit your goals. All of my goals have been very, very unrealistic.
Nobody brings it home like HBO.
Nobody.
It's been a long time coming. But there are some things that are well worth waiting for. Our cover stories of the '86 season took a look at the lives and issues of those surrounding the NFL. Much has happened since, as we will show you in this year-end review. Our Where Are They Now segments travel across the country, taking you back into the lives of many of your favorite players. Join us now as we take one last trip down memory lane. We've come to Hawaii, site of the Pro Bowl, where we will discuss last Sunday's Super Bowl matchup with Giants Joe Morris and Harry Carson, along with Broncos John Elway and Rulon Jones.
And now, from the Aloha State on the island of Oahu, inside the NFL with your hosts Len Dawson and Nick Bonaconti.
Hello, everybody, or as we say here in our 50th state, aloha. We're very pleased to bring our final show of the season from this beautiful setting on Waikiki Beach, located on the island of Oahu. It is a little breezy here, but you can see Mr. Bonaconti. He's already dressed up in Hawaiian garb. But what about the glasses?
I'm trying to do a James Dean look-alike here, my friend. I bought these glasses here in Honolulu. I've become a sex symbol. I'm getting a following.
Yeah, I understand, but people want to see the whites of your eyes.
All right, I'll take off the glasses for the show. This is the last show of the season, Lenny. Normally we bring our guests via the satellite here from Hawaii, which is also home of the Pro Bowl. We're really lucky, though. We are here. We're going to have our Super Bowl guests live for our viewers. When you talk about Super Bowl 21, though, Lenny, you try to evaluate that. I think the Denver Broncos lost any opportunity to win that football game when they failed to score a touchdown when they were on the 1-yard line in the second quarter. To me, I said touchdown, not field goal. They blew it.
That situation to me indicated that the Broncos really did not feel they could move the ball in short yardage situations against the Giants. Now, here it was. First and goal from the 1-yard line, 36 short inches away. If they plugged at it 4 times, they had 4 shots to move it in. When John Elway rolled out on first down and lost yardage, that told everyone, including the Giants, they were not able to move the ball on the ground against them. It's like a heavyweight championship fight. They had that team stagger, but they couldn't knock them out.
You're absolutely right. The Broncos had the Giants on the ropes. To me, the Giant defense was confused. They looked like they were tired. John Elway was getting that great protection by his offensive line, and he was throwing the football down the field almost at will. To me, Denver was perched upon an opportunity, and they saw it fizzle right before their own eyes. When they went in at halftime, Lenny, they were leading 10-9. I turned to a Denver Bronco fan, and I said to him, don't you have that sinking feeling? To me, the game was over.
Well, I tell you, I'm sure Danny Reeves would love to have that situation over once again, but as far as the Giants are concerned, they could not be happier, even though they were behind at halftime. Nose tackle Jim Burt put it, I think, best when he said that is the worst half of football this team has played all year long.
You know, Lenny, there's no doubt about it. The Denver Broncos did have the starch taken out of them. But you and I know also that when you have that many opportunities to score and you fail on all of them, that Mr. Momentum has a way of turning. But when the ball game started, it looked like it was going to be a typical Wild West duel between 2 real sharpshooters, Sims and Elway.
The only warm spot in the country on Super Bowl Sunday was the Rose Bowl, where the Broncos said they would try to put the heat on the league's #1 rushing defense. Well, try they did. But when New York turned the Broncos' running game upside down, John Elway managed to turn the Giants inside out. This opening drive of the game looked like a rerun of the drive in the AFC Championship game, as Elway took center stage in directing his team downfield. Broncos had the opportunity to take the early lead, and they leaped at the chance. Rich Carlos's field goal from 48 yards tied a Super Bowl record and put Denver on the scoreboard. It was no surprise that the Broncos were in front behind their star quarterback. But it was the Giants quarterback who stunned a Denver defense that was looking for the run. Phil Simms played the role of spoiler perfectly on this drive, completing all 6 passing attempts to 5 different receivers, including Stacy Robinson, number 81. Simms just kept on throwing until he reached the end zone and Zeke Moat, number 84. Moat, the Giants' backup tight end, had his day in the forefront, streaking past Denver safety Steve Foley to make the catch. With the Giants holding a 7-3 advantage, John Elway refused to be overshadowed by his New York counterpart and served up ace after ace on the Broncos' answering drive. Scattering his passes, Elway connected with running back Sammy Winder and tight end Orson Mobley, number 89, in his march to the opposite goal line. From 4 yards out, Broncos center Billy Bryan immobilized Giants nose guard Jim Burt to clear the way for Elway. Elway followed his blockers down the Primrose Path and into the Rose Garden. Denver took a 10-7 lead into the second quarter behind their hot young quarterback, who exploited the overeager Giants, the second-best defense in the league. For the heavily favored Giants, the drama had only begun.
Ten to 7, Broncos leading after the first quarter. That is great news for the Broncos because people were saying if they could keep it close for the first 15 minutes against the Giants, they had an excellent chance of winning the football game. Joining us now, 2 members that are really instrumental for both clubs. Joe Morse, the outstanding running back for the New York Giants, who had another tremendous year. Also, one of the upcoming finest defensive linemen in the National Football League today, Rulon Jones. Rulon, I'll address my question to you first. I wonder what your feelings prior to the kickoff and then after the first 15 minutes of play.
Well, going into the game, you know, it was a situation unlike a lot of the other games, you know, where you're trying to get psyched up and ready to play the football game. This time we were, talking to each other and saying, hey, we got to be calm, we got to go out there and play our, type of football game and not make the mental mistakes that come when you're too excited. So, after the first drive, we calmed down, and I think when we went into the game, we were all a little uptight and blew a few things and made a few mental mistakes. But after that first drive, we calmed down a little bit, and we were pretty confident.
Joe, a little unusual situation for you. All year long, your defense is getting the ball back for you about as much time as you want it. Now you're in the ball game, you get the ball, you go down and make a picture-perfect drive for a touchdown, and now your defense can't get you to football. You're on the sideline. Are you a little frustrated?
I think so, Nick. They've played well all year for us. They've been the strength of our team all year. At that point right there, you're really concerned that John Elway's just going to have a great day against you all day and not be able to get the ball back for you at all on defense. But they made some adjustments when we got the ball back.
Rulon, this is not a new team for you. You played them once during the regular season. Phil Simms did not score an offensive touchdown for the Giants. But in the first quarter, did you feel that you were chasing a different Phil Simms out there?
Well, I did, and I think they had a little bit of a different game plan. Joe might be able to, talk a little bit about that, but they were passing a lot more on first down and then running when it was, passing type of situation. So they kept us off balance a little bit, but we tried to make some adjustments in the first half. you know, after that first drive, we were quite successful. But they had a little bit different game plan, and Sims was, it seemed, you know, just his day. You know, he was so hot.
Joe, again, you were getting the ball and you were running very successfully. And as I was watching that football game, I saw that most of the success came when you ran to the side of number 89, Mark Bavaro. Can you describe to our viewers what it's like when you're carrying that football and you're running behind number 89?
Ben, I've got to kind of give you an analogy to that. It's like being in a shopping mall and being behind a very big lady who just blocks everything else out. And Mark just does that for me, and this allows me to run and just be myself and just do things. When he goes out to block a guy, he does a very good job on that.
Joe and Rulon, please stay with us because we want to talk to you a little bit later in the show. You know, in the first quarter, the Giant fans were wondering if the real Giant defense had showed up. And in the second quarter, it didn't get any easier for the Big Blue Wrecking Crew.
With the exception of the Denver faithful, there were few observers who expected the Broncos to be in a position to extend their lead to 10 points in the second period. But indeed they were when John Elway unloaded for a 54-yard bomb to Vance Johnson, number 82. Elway completed 5 passes on the 79-yard drive. But with first and goal, Elway did not dance with what brought him to the New York 1-yard line. Instead, the Broncos elected to run against the Giants, whose defense against the run is rated number 1 in the NFL. New York lived up to their lofty billing. 3 times Denver took a crack at the goal line. 3 times they were turned away. The Broncos netted a -5 yards on the series before Rich Karlis came on to chip one in from 23 yards out, less than half the distance of his record-tying kick in the first period. When Karlis's kick sailed wide right, Denver had nothing to show for an impressive drive that earned them 0 points. Still, the Broncos clung to a 3-point lead. And at least in the second quarter, Denver showed the boys from Jersey why they own the top-rated rush defense in the AFC. All told, the Giants managed just 41 total yards in period 2, not the kind of numbers that set the tone for a Super Bowl victory. It is said that defense wins championships, and on Denver's next possession, the Giants' defense went on the offensive. After Leonard Marshall sacked John Elway at his own 13-yard line, New York got lucky. Elway's low pass was caught inches above the ground by tight end Clarence Kay. But the officials ruled that it was a trap, and the pass was incomplete. All replay angles proved inconclusive, and the call stood. If Kay's catch is allowed, the Broncos have a first down at their own 20-yard line. As it was, Denver faced a 3rd and 12 from their own 13. This was especially significant considering what happened next. Elway was smothered in the end zone for a safety by George Martin, number 75. Who got a break when Bronco blocking back Steve Sewell pulled left to pick up the interior pass rush. That tactic left Martin one-on-one with Denver tackle Ken Lanier. Lanier could not contain the 12-year veteran, and Martin's sack and safety brought the Giants to within a point, 10-9. It appeared as if the New York defense had hit its stride. But when Denver got the ball back with 1:05 remaining in the half, Elway quickly drove the Broncos 47 yards to the New York 16. But again, Denver came up empty deep in Giants territory when Rich Karlis missed his second field goal of the half. Squandered opportunities cost the Broncos 10 points, but at the end of the first half, they still led by 1.
If you think all the wind was in the sails of the America's Cup finalist Stars and Stripes, then you are mistaken. Because going in at halftime, the spinnaker of the Giants was beginning to fill with the air of success. Talking about success, we have as our special guest two guys who are the key to the success of both their clubs, quarterback of the Denver Broncos, John Elway, and the Giant defensive captain, Harry Carson. Harry, first with you, a question. When Denver was on the 1-yard line having 4 cracks at it, were you surprised that they didn't try to ram the ball over?
Well, on the first down play, we were just looking for anything. You know, we thought that maybe he would, you know, maybe John would try to go with the quarterback draw like he did before. But we were really prepared for anything. And when they ran that play, the first play, it was like a play-action option play, and we were expecting anything.
So you were just there, anything goes type of a deal?
Yeah. We had good preparation last week on goal line and short yardage, so we had a pretty good understanding of what they were going to try to do.
John, I'll ask you about that situation. 1st and goal to go. Who called the play, and what were you trying to accomplish?
Well, Dan called the play. You know, he'd said before the game, the first time we get down there in the scoring territory, down in the goal line situation, that we were going to go with that plan. It's a run-pass option with me. We had Sammy going to the corner of the end zone. If they fall back on Sammy, then I was supposed to take it in behind some block, and we're supposed to have an extra blocker out there, but I don't know where he went.
That's just a matter of, once again, they talk about the execution was not there.
That's
you don't
right.
think it was a bad call?
Well, no, because we used it the previous 2 weeks, and it'd been a good play for us. And you know, we knew that the Giants were tough inside, and we were going to try to take a crack and get outside of them. And you know, with me running the ball, we've got an extra blocker, but like you said, the execution wasn't there, and we couldn't get it in.
Harry, I maintain that, you know, the momentum of the game changed immediately after the Broncos did not score a touchdown. I mean touchdown, not a field goal. Now, what was the mood of the Giants and the locker room at halftime?
Well, the mood was we had to go back out and play better zone defense and just try to keep John in the pocket and not let him get out. We knew that we were a better ball club than what we showed in the first half, and some of the guys were a little, you know, disappointed because they did not play very well in the first half. And everybody just vowed to go out and just try to play a better game in the second half as opposed to the first.
John, I'm going to ask you the same question. What went on in your locker room at halftime, and what was the feeling?
Well, I think, you know, we were a little bit disappointed. As many scoring opportunities we had in the first half, and, you know, to be 1st and 1 on the 1-yard line and not get it in, and then end up missing 2 field goals. And, you know, we really had a chance to go in 20-7 and went in 10-9. So, you know, we felt that offensively we were moving the ball. We just had to continue that. And when we did get those opportunities, we had to take advantage of it by scoring points. And, you know, and as everyone knows, the second half, they kind of took control of it and, you know, played good defense.
John, I want you and Harry to stay with us because after we see the highlights of the 4th quarter, we'd like to chat with you once again. You know, this was the closest game at halftime in the history of the Super Bowl. And the ironic thing is that the Broncos could have been up by as many as 11 points. Well, the way the 3rd quarter started, they need all of that and more.
As day turned to dusk in the canyon of Arroyo Seco, both teams hit the locker room for a little halftime adjustment and fine-tuning of game plans. And it was New York who came out the most determined. Facing a 4th and 1 from their own 46-yard line, Bill Parcells elected to be bold and go for it early in the 3rd quarter, as Jeff Rutledge stepped up from punt formation and gained 2 over right tackle for a key 1st down. Denver's offensive bag of tricks was highly publicized throughout Super Bowl week, but it was a bit of New York trickery that had kept the drive alive, and Phil Simms would sustain it with his accurate right arm. Seldom used Lee Roussan gained 23, and seemingly always used Mark Bavaro put the Giants ahead as Phil Simms completed his 4th of 4 passes on the second half's opening drive. Bavaro's 13-yard seam splitter gave the Giants a 16-10 lead and set the tone for a 3rd quarter of complete and total domination by New York. A quarter in which Denver would fail to achieve a single 1st down. The Giants would score on 3 straight possessions, and Phil Simms would take control of Super Bowl 21. Minutes later, on a 9-play, 32-yard march, Simms ran and passed his Giants down to the Bronco 4-yard line. With just under 4 minutes remaining in the third stanza, Raul Alegre instructed Rich Carlos on how to nail a chip shot, and New York upped its lead to 19-10. The first half had been a nerve-wracking one for expectant Giant fans, but now the Rose Bowl was rocking with Big Apple fanatics out of their seats, led by self-appointed cheerleader Phil McConkey. Experts predicted a romp by New York, and this was soon to become precisely such a blowout. All of America, over 100,000 on hand, and certainly the Denver Broncos believed that with a 9-point lead, New York would grind it out with Joe Morris. But on this evening, the Giants shed their image as football's ultra-conservatives, and as they say, went for the whole enchilada. Phil McConkey's catch and not his patented white towel had New Yorkers screaming once more, despite McConkey being flipped over a yard shy of the end zone. The daring flea flicker was good for 44 yards. It caught Denver's defense completely by surprise. But a touchdown-saving tackle by ex-Giant Mark Haynes denied McConkey the touchdown he so desperately wanted. After McConkey finished his rendition of the emotional death scene from La Boheme, Joe Morris plunged the knife deep into the staggering Broncos. Morris cruised in untouched thanks to a seal block by Chris Godfrey, number 61, as the Giants assumed a commanding 26-10 lead. Thanks to a perfect 8-for-8 period by Phil Simms, New York had taken control, and the Giant defense ended the quarter by hammering John Elway for an 11-yard loss. Leonard Marshall's sack and Lawrence Taylor's celebration brought the third quarter to a close as New York turned a 1-point deficit into a 16-point bulge with 17 unanswered points.
In the third quarter, the total offense for the Broncos, 1 yard. Reserve quarterback Jeff Rutledge of the Giants, he also gained 1 yard, but that 1 yard made a big difference in the ball game. Joining us once again, Rulon Jones of the Denver Broncos and running back Joe Morris of the Giants. I want to go back to that 4th down and 1 situation about midfield, and Rutledge called that quarterback sneak. What did that mean to your team?
Well, at the time right there, it kept the drive going. It showed our coach was very aggressive and he was planning on winning the ball game. That wasn't a very pretty drive for us, but we got a touchdown out of it. And that meant an awful lot to our team.
Rulon, what did you feel that the roof caved in on your defense?
Well, I think maybe that was the play, you know, with the 4th and 1. And basically, we went out there, or we stayed out there with our defensive front end, and we knew that they were going to run that particular type of play. I think we thought they were going to run it outside because they had ran that same type of thing when we played them earlier in New York. So when we got out there and we were basically ready for it and they still got that 1 yard, things started going bad at that point.
Joe, I want to ask you about the game plan for your football team. Ordinarily, when I think of your team, I think Joe Morris running, Bill Simms passing every once in a while, but it looked completely different starting out that football game. What was the game plan going in?
Well, in going into the game, we knew that Denver was going to play a lot of different fronts, and they were mainly designed to stop the run. We felt like if we could get out, get our receivers open, and Phil had some time to throw the ball, we'd be fine.
Were you surprised at the success of Phil Simms? I mean, Phil's a fine quarterback, but I mean, this guy was phenomenal. Were you surprised by that?
I don't think so. You know, going to the playoffs, he was playing, you know, outstanding ball. And I think the key to it was we were thinking more run. You know, we were keep gearing up for the run, and then he comes out and had the hot hand. And you know, they kept us off balance really the whole time, so we really never could pin our ears back and get after him, and he just had a great day.
Rulon and Joe, I really want to thank you both for being on our show. You both have had outstanding seasons, and you're both to be congratulated.
Thanks.
At the end of the third quarter, the Giants were in total control, and victory was right within their grasps. For the Denver Broncos, it looked like the climb would be almost insurmountable. It would be wait till next year.
By the fourth quarter, all the world was a Phil Simms fan. With the outcome of the game all but decided, the only drama that remained was whether the Giant quarterback could make Super Bowl and playoff history. If Simms could connect on his next pass attempt, he'd have 9 completions in a row. No one in the Super Bowl or any NFL playoff game, for that matter, had ever done that. With this 36-yard pass to wide receiver Stacy Robinson, Simms etched his name in the record book. And then Phil tacked on his 10th straight without a miss, with a touchdown that proved to be further evidence that this was indeed the Giants' year. Wide receiver Phil McConkey played the bounce perfectly off Mark Bavaro for the score. And the one-time Navy helicopter pilot now truly did have his head in the clouds. The score swelled the New York lead to 33-10, and with only 11 minutes to go, Denver's hopes of victory had vanished. But the Broncos salvaged their self-respect, with quarterback John Elway leading the team on 2 scoring drives. Drives that helped restore some measure of Denver dignity. Elway's scramble set up a Rich Carlos field goal. And then on Denver's final possession, the Bronco quarterback hooked up with wide receiver Vance Johnson on a play that offered Colorado fans one last hurrah. Elway finished with 304 yards in the air to outgain Simms in the passing derby. But it was small consolation against a Giants team that continued to move the ball at will long after the championship had been decided. The game MVP choice was obvious, and Phil Simms, with a record-setting 88% completion rate from his passing arm, still had enough fire in his legs for a bootleg that set up New York's final touchdown of Super Bowl 21. From the 2, the Giants punched it in with reserve running back Otis Anderson doing the honors. The 39 points scored marked the second highest output in Super Bowl history. Anderson had played 8 years with the Cardinals without even coming close to a world championship. But a midseason trade to the Giants finally gave O.J. that chance. Now there was no longer any doubt for him, or for longtime New York linebacker Harry Carson, who officially proclaimed victory with the Giants' customary Gatorade baptism of head coach Bill Parcells. Never did a dousing taste so sweet. And with the traditional victory ride, Parcells and his players could finally end 30 years of frustration. At long last, the New York Giants were champions of the world.
Charles Dickens wrote a novel titled A Tale of Two Cities, and Phil Simms and John Elway started in a game titled A Game of Two Halves. But in the final analysis, the only thing that counts is the score. We're back with Harry Carson and John Elway. And John, my first question to you was, to me, you had a great first half. It looked like you did everything that could be expected of you. Now you've had a couple days to reflect on that ball game. Is there anything that you would have changed in that game?
Well, I think the key thing was in the second half, you know, they came out and took the opening kickoff and converted a 4th down on a fake punt type thing, and you know, did a great job of execution and took it down and scored. I think what we had to do as an offense is we kind of felt the momentum slipping right down. I think that what we didn't do is get the execution to get us a couple first downs when we had a chance in that third quarter. And, you know, we had the ball twice, and we only ran 6 plays the whole quarter. So we needed to do something more with our chances of getting the ball in the third quarter.
But did you feel the pressure of having to make the big play in the third quarter?
Well, not really, because, you know, we'd been coming back all year, and we've been in that situation before, and we felt that, you know, the Giants were doing pretty much the same thing on defense. We just had to keep executing, and the pass rush they're getting tougher on the pass rush, and their coverage was getting better. So they not only did we get worse on offense, but they got better on defense.
Harry, I want to talk about you. Now, this is a young man over here, John Elway. You've been in this game for a couple of years. What was the feeling like? You've had a couple of days now. What's it like to win it all?
It's outrageous. I tell you, it's. I watched you in Super Bowl I, and I kind of thought about that Sunday morning prior to the game. I really didn't know what to expect, but you know, it's just like a dream come true. Going back to my childhood, I always wanted to be in a Super Bowl, and I got the opportunity, and not just be in it, but win. So it's just an experience that I have that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
John, your performance in the playoffs was, I think, spectacular. And you had, again, I reiterate, you had such a great first half in Super Bowl 21. Do you feel now, finally, that the monkey is off your back?
Well, I think so. I think that, you know, there was a lot of things expected of me since I've been in the league, and I think that, you know, there still will be, but I think that, you know, it was a big hump for me to get over to play well in the playoffs and in pressure situations. And, you know, my philosophy is great quarterbacks come through in big games, and so, you know, it makes me feel good. It's good for my confidence, and it's nice to know that people think that I'm not a total bust anymore.
One final thought, Harry. Your plans for the future? I'm not trying to run you off or anything.
I have no plans except to enjoy the off season, come back and play next season and the season after that. I've already spoken with Bill Parcells, and he said that if I want to play until I'm 50, you know, I can do it. So I love the game of football. I feel great now. I really don't have any plans to retire anytime soon.
Harry, thank you very much. John, thank you very much for being part of our show. I don't know if you realize it, but because of you people and your contemporaries in the National Football League, you make this show as popular as it is, not just because of your action on the field, but because you let us come into your homes and see another side of a professional football player, and we thank you for that. I'm talking about our NFL cover story. This week, Drew Pearson will take us back and update us on some of the NFL cover stories of this past year.
As the football season draws to a close, we'd like to show you some of the stories we've covered this year and update you on the ones where situations have changed. From longshoremen referees to artistic wide receivers, our cover stories have hopefully shown you just how human our heroes can be.
4 years ago, Notre Dame lineman J.D. Marlavelle was stricken with Hodgkin's disease. It was certainly a long road back from chemotherapy to making the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a rookie this season.
As far as the illness, I hardly ever think about it unless somebody asks me about it. It's in my mind, it's if it never happened.
J.D. got more playing time as the season went on, and he's looking forward to capturing a starting position next year with his adversities well behind him. While not facing as much adversity as J.D. Marlavelle, this season NFL officials were saddled with some adversity as well. They were asked to utilize instant replays to assist them in their calls. We caught up with referee Hendy Ansich in the preseason and found this problem.
Yeah, Norm, what's up?
I want you to light off your pump and bring them idle. That's for it.
You know what that is?
That's Norm.
No, that's interference. That's either a taxi company or a Coast Guard.
Hendy and the other officials have now worked out many of their communication problems. And this past Sunday, Hendy was certainly the only longshoreman to be an alternate referee for a Super Bowl game. The Super Bowl was also a big story in England this year. We showed you how the British were becoming more and more fascinated with American football than ever before via highlights sent overseas each week.
I think partly because of the program, people have become just mad keen on American football. They are crazy about it, some people. You wouldn't believe it, frankly.
Coverage of football has become so popular that cheerleaders' playoffs and Super Bowl shows were broadcast live to compete with newspapers and sports phones, which provided information a day later. At the beginning of the season, Larry Merchant had a one-on-one interview with Tony Dorsett and found out his feelings about playing side by side with the newest Cowboy, Herschel Walker.
With the two of us on the football field together, it could be a good blend, a good mix, and something that could be very advantageous to the success of our team.
But Dorsett was slowed by injuries this season and failed to rush for 1,000 yards for the first time in 8 full seasons. A player more frequently injured is the Bears' Jim McMahon. When we talked to him, he was relatively healthy, but he always kept one eye open for a player who was willing to separate him from good health.
Big guys out there, they're trying to maim you. I mean, they could say all they want about they're not, but you know, they're trying to hurt you and take you out of the game.
McMahon must have known what he was talking about. 5 weeks later, Charles Martin finished him for the season. The man who eventually replaced McMahon at the Bears' helm was Doug Flutie, who spent much of his first season under Mike Ditka getting scolded. However, when we met him, he would have been happy to have a coach so interested in him.
Still going to be playing someday in the NFL. Whether it's this year, next year, 2 years down the road, it's going to happen eventually, and that time will come.
Maybe his time was too soon. Doug Flutie and the Bears made a quick exit from this year's playoffs. We also featured a player who was making anything but a quick exit from football. We took a look at Jeff Van Note, the oldest player in the game, who retired from the Falcons after 19 seasons.
I started feeling my age, that I no longer had that intensity of starting and competing from start to finish.
Jack Trudeau seemed the opposite of Jeff Van Note. As a rookie quarterback, he had much to learn about the Colts offense. We saw him studying day and night, trying to recover from a preseason holdout. It may be that he never did. The Colts went 0-12 with Trudeau at the helm, and it was only when Gary Hogeblum returned that the Colts lost their right to Vinny Testaverde. The fans who will be cheering for Testaverde next season couldn't wait that long. In Clearwater, Florida, we found a newspaper offering a fan optional to the Bucs each week, the Cleveland Browns.
We're sick and tired of the Bucs. We need something else, and they took it in the right vein of it being a fun thing.
The Buc fans chose a good team to follow. Those dogs barked their way to the AFC Championship game. But many people don't always choose the right team to root for or bet on. In our two-part series on tip sheets, we show how some organizations offer betting advice and why they do. Some, such as the Goal Sheet, offer legitimate football knowledge to the responsible bettor.
We won't deal with anybody that's desperate or is looking for percentages that we can't honestly provide for them. There's no way we can do it.
Other services prey on the inexperienced or desperate bettor. They claim they provide more winning tips than they could possibly provide, and they use high-pressure tactics to lure gamblers into larger bets and larger debts.
The more you push them, the more you're proud of them, the weaker they became, and the more they gave in.
Bill, if Martin Luther King were alive today, he would say, I had a dream about the SMU Notre Dame line.
Telesports, how are you, sir?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Listen, I'm telling you, man, you could be up 20 points at halftime and a ton of money.
While some people hurt themselves betting too much on football, others get hurt while playing. During a 4-game losing streak, Marty Lyons of the Jets sat in the press box with an injured shoulder, filled with frustration and doubt.
You just sit here with an empty feeling because you know if you were out there, maybe you could get back there. Maybe you'd be stuck on the line of scrimmage just like everybody else was, but at least you would be out there trying. Yeah. You can't contribute up here.
Lyons did return and led the Jets to a wild-card playoff victory before their frustrating overtime loss to the Browns. At other times, there are reminders of what frustration is all about. Bob Golick of the Browns often visits children stricken with cystic fibrosis and adds a touch of love to their lives.
I applaud the strength of these guys who can, sit there and fight through it and, and take it in stride. And like I said before, if I could just harness some of that and pass it out amongst the team, then, we'd definitely be in the Super Bowl this year.
Bob Golick couldn't lead his team to the Super Bowl, but the All-Pro does plan to bring the team to a party with the kids this February at the Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. A former history teacher led his team to the Super Bowl this year, Giants general manager George Young. He brought a distinctly non-football approach to a team which desperately needed a break from recent history.
The more change you have at the top, the more befuddlement you have for some period of time. And the less change and the more continuity, the better chance of you getting the thing right.
Young has engineered many successful moves for the Giants, drafting most of the players who have brought them their first NFL championship in 30 years. Moves have made this wide receiver what he is today. Denver's Vance Johnson has moved into the art world as a wide receiver with another special talent. We saw Vance planning for a life after football, but after his big playoff game against the Patriots, you can be sure he has a lot of football life left. Phil McConkey had a whole life before his football career even began. He had joined the Navy after his academy days and wasn't planning on playing any more football until seasickness forced him out of the service. The Giants have the military to thank for making McConkey the toughest punt returner in the business. And his key catch in the Super Bowl helped spark the Giants to their first championship since Phil's mother was pregnant with the future hero.
One of the pleasures of sports is that there is no final verdict or end to the stories which can be covered. To the victors, the New York Giants, enjoy the fruits of victory. You deserve it. You are the world champions. To the Broncos and the other 26 teams in the National Football League, there's always next year. For HBO Sports, I'm Drew Pearson.
Our NFL cover star has always been a very, very special part of our show. And beside the special guests that we have featured on this show, there are our correspondents who make it happen. We'd like at this time to thank Larry Merchant and Drew Pearson for putting in the time to make ideas become a reality. Great job, guys.
Nick, you know, also we did something completely different on the show this year. We thought the viewers would enjoy hearing from a current outstanding football player and what life is like for him during the football season. We're very fortunate that Howie Long, the outstanding defensive lineman with the Raiders, would have his weekly diary. And believe me, this was not easy because, consider this, because of injuries, he missed playing for the first time in his career. If that was not bad enough, his team did not make the playoffs. On Howie's final page of the season this year, he's going to give us an inside look on how he handled his assignment.
Well, folks, can you believe that 22 weeks have gone by and the 1986-87 Super Bowl is finally over? Oh, that reminds me. Hats off to this year's world champion, the New York Giants. It's funny, it seems like yesterday when HBO called up and expressed an interest in having me on the show. And I have to admit, I was very nervous about the whole thing. Number one, never before had an active player kept a weekly diary, so I wasn't really sure of how I would be received. And number two, the show would be taped on my only day off, which is Tuesday, which in turn meant that I wouldn't have a day off until after the Super Bowl. But I took a chance and decided it was a unique opportunity. And to tell you the truth, I'm glad I did. Now don't get me wrong, it has not been a bed of roses. I've had to deal with a number of things throughout the past 22 weeks. Our season was not what I expected it to be, so I wasn't always in the best of moods to write a show. I mean, the last thing I wanted to think about after that Monday night loss to Seattle was what I was going to talk about in my diary, as some of you might remember. You ever had one of those weeks that have gone so bad, folks, that you just don't feel like writing anything in your diary? Well, this is one of them. Now, I know people are dying to know what my opinion of our Monday night beating was, but like Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, I think I'll take the fifth on that one. I also had injuries. I tore a hamstring, and right after the Cleveland game, I had a blood clot the size of my fist surgically removed from my knee. And believe me, the last person I wanted to hear from was an HBO producer wondering what I was going to write about. It was tough enough to write the story, but then I have to get in front of the camera and tape it. I have to admit, one day after surgery, I was a little out of it. Which, by the way, just happened to be the biggest game of the year. I was just... Why am I doing this? But there were many positives about the whole experience. When I started out, I had no idea how many people watched the show. Opposing players would ask, hey, what's your show going to be about this week? I even had an official come in our huddle and say how much he enjoyed my piece. I have to give HBO credit. They told me I would have total freedom, and I did. I spoke my mind, never ducked an issue, whether it was drug testing, officiating, or how the commissioner was running the league. My intention was to give you, the fan, an honest opinion from a player's standpoint, and I hope I accomplished that. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you for putting up with me through 22 weeks. Also, thanks to HBO for this opportunity. And finally, I'd like to thank Nick and Len. It has truly been a pleasure to work with a couple of first-class guys. Well, I guess that's it. So I'll see you next year, folks.
Howie, I know it wasn't easy. And believe me, after the season the Raiders had, I know that you want to personally orchestrate the return to prominence of the silver and black. But believe me, if you ever want to have a change of heart and come back and do the show, just let us know. Hey, maybe we can get Al Davis to do the piece. What do you think about
Al Davis? I would love it. I personally think that Al Davis is the most interesting character in the NFL today. He does not mince words. You know that. He lets you know exactly how he feels. I think if he wrote an autobiography, immediately it would become a bestseller. I know I'd go out and buy it. There's another new feature that we had on the show this year, our Where Are They Now segment. Now, we loved it. Not only did we love it, but our viewers wrote thousands of letters asking where some of their favorite players and what they're doing today. Well, naturally, we couldn't show you what all of them are doing today, but we did show you some of them. So why don't we take one last look at the subjects of our Where Are They Now feature.
Over the course of the season, we've traveled the country from the Jersey Shore to the city by the bay, into the windy town of Chicago, and throughout the heartland of our nation, to sample just a taste of the many who have spiced pro football's uniquely American flavor. Ah.
Invigorated and happy that I've been able to work out. The good Lord has blessed me with a good health where I can have physically fit to do the things I want to do. So to me, age is irrelevant.
There's a lot about sexuality that hasn't been explained, and I'm no expert on it. You know, I was in a unique position of all of a sudden being made an expert on being queer, and I didn't know much about being queer, or using that word itself used to freak me out totally. it's a joy to say I'm happier in a wheelchair than I've ever been, because I feel like as if I got my act a little bit more together and feel more stable than when I was a wild and crazy professional football player.
I realized at the time that I never was going to become rich farming. But I think there are more things in life to look at and in choosing employment and choosing where you live than how much of the green stuff you can earn.
I've never had that said, boy, I wish that was me out there getting the crap kicked out of me. It's never happened. Or I wish I was out there kicking the crap out of them. That one, you know, that has never happened. It was a good time in my life. I enjoyed it. And I just simply said, hey, it's time to get on with the rest of my life. Hey, we've enough fun and games. You know, we got to do some serious stuff now.
Each of these men have left their distinct mark in professional football. But as diverse as their personalities, competitive accomplishments, and occupations after football have been, they all commonly share in having enriched the enjoyment of generations of football fans. And all football fans will surely miss the legendary Hall of Fame quarterback Bobby Lane, who passed away at the end of 1986.
I'd say I've had a wonderful life. I'd say that I would be the luckiest man in the world because I've had great years. If I had to call it quits tomorrow, it'd certainly be all right, because I've had just a fabulous life.
Goodbye, Bobby. You gave us a lot of memories.
Bobby Lane, boy, you will be missed. I miss you. Very special in my heart, because they were a big part of my career spent with Bobby Lane when I was his understudy for 2 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Bobby Lane taught me a great deal about leadership and about willingness to go out and play the game, and I really say the love of the football game. And Nick, he's a type of a character, brother. He is really going to be missed.
You know, I didn't know Bobby Lane, Lenny, but I know one thing: the man was a winner.
Yeah,
and talking about winning, hey, talking about winning, I just want to show you what I did this year. For the first time in 8 years since I've been with you, I finally was able to bury you in the picks.
You did bury me, but I want the folks to know that it wasn't all you, and you know that. Your son Mark was on the phone every week talking to you, telling you who to select. I think next year I want Mark on my side.
You get a draft choice. You get a draft choice next year. But Lenny, I want to say something to you personally, and I know this is something that's dear to your heart. We just found out, of course, that you were named to the NFL Football Hall of Fame, and On behalf of myself, who I share this with you and also the staff of HBO and Inside the NFL, I really want to shake your hand and say, I'll tell you, when they say good things happen to good people, they really mean it when they talk about you. Congratulations, my man.
I hate to get choked up on the last show, but I really appreciate that. This is something, Nick, I don't think you could ever think about or dream about. I mean, you go out and you play the game because you really love it, and you have no control over what's going to happen. But this is so special. It's just unbelievable. And I thank the people who voted for me. For me, it's a little extra special because Canton, Ohio, is located in the same county that I grew up, and I played many football games on the same field where they'll play that Pro Football Hall of Game come this summer at Fawcett Stadium, and it's a thrill.
Well, we're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to you getting that Hall of Fame ring and the Hall of Fame jacket and everything. Best to you. But you know something, the 1986 season, Lenny, let's look back at that for just a minute. I mean, it's been a terrific year. The New York Giants, a great football team. The Giants, I think, are a football team that can repeat next year. I think this is a ball club that's a little different than the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears started off as a team and ended up as a bunch of individuals. I think the New York Giants are a team that will stay together as a team when they go back in August.
That's going to be something to see because I think the Bears, we thought that was going to be the case with them last year after they demolished the Patriots in Super Bowl game. That's going to be the real test, right, for the Giants coming up. And we got instant replay that took place this year. That was the first. I really have enjoyed this year with you, and the shows, I think, was the best we've ever had, and I'm really looking forward to doing it once again next year.
Partner, it's always great.
Thank you. Well, there you have it. That's our show for this year. Thanks for joining us here on HBO Sports Inside the NFL.
This is Phil Simms. It feels great. We won it. We won it. We're the Super Bowl champions. And I want to thank the fans. The New York fans are the greatest. Thank you.
Giants number one. Giants number one. Giants number one. Giants number one. Giants victory. A world championship win. With fire in their eyes. Gave us butterflies. Now let the party begin. The Giants are number one. With the Pasadena to have some fun. Have some fun. Winning Super Bowl 21. The Giants are number one. Celebrate. Let's celebrate that victory. Party time. Let's party now. Let's party now. Celebrate.
Phil Simms. We just got it going, and we hit a few big plays. And, you know, sometimes you get it going in this league, it's hard to stop it.
Lawrence Taylor.
Second half, when it cooled off, we came out and said, hey, this is our type of weather. Let's go out and play ball.
Celebrate.
George Martin.
We went in at halftime and made a...
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.
Nobody brings it home like HBO in '87. It's the year to watch. America's favorite wits come together at the Gerald R. Ford Museum.
My favorite Ronald Reagan joke is George Bush.
They're here to answer the burning question.
Go right ahead and shoot.
What's so funny about being president? Chevy Chase, Robert Clyde, Mark Russell.